What's up, guys? It's December 28th. I'm making this video. I have like 4 or 5 videos planned for the next 3 days, all about UFC in 2024 and how successful it was and what's to come with 2025. And today what I wanted to do was make a video with the MMA Casual Awards. Yeah, everybody goes crazy. The crowd goes wild. Yes, all the fighters are going to come up to speak. Dana White has a, post-award ceremony press conference, but I'm going to leave that out. I'm going to cut that out. I don't think it's worth it. But in all honesty, I wanted to come on here and talk about 2024. What a monumental year it's been, to be honest with you. What a significant year it's been for the sport. And the fact that we've created some fighters have come out of the blue and become legends. Some fighters have taken over the sport, and some fighters have set themselves up for success for the year to come. So I think it'll be a lot of fun to kind of break some of these opinions of mine down and see what you guys have to think, and you comment below. So this is not a betting video. This is me not talking about picks because we don't have UFC for another 2.5 weeks per se. So let's get down to it, guys. Today I'm going to be talking about the come up of the year. So the fighter, in my opinion, who's made the most progress, who's jumped through the ranking, who's set themselves up for success in 2025. The underdog of the year, which that's self-explanatory. The comeback of the year, which is not the same thing as an underdog. And I don't mean a comeback as in one fight. I mean a comeback into the UFC or a comeback from just a losing streak. Knockout of the year, sub of the year, fight of the year, performance of the year, card of the year, and fighter of the year. And then team of the year. Not in that order. Card and fighter I'll leave, even though a lot of people are going to feel it's very basic, maybe casual, and maybe I just gave it away, but I feel like those are pretty straight up. But I have some pretty set opinions about the other ones, and yes, I have some things written down here because I wanted to gather my thoughts. And the next video after this one's going to be really cool, guys, so be sure to subscribe. It's going to be who I believe will be the champion at the end of 2025. So a lot of predictions coming, and there's going to be a lot of breakdowns with. It's going to be a cool video. I'm going to be talking about who's going to be the champion in 2025. So I think it's pretty cool. I'm going to break down a lot of fighters and the fighters I believe who are going to have the opportunity to fight for the belt and what I believe is going to happen in each division, including all the female ones. So let's get right to it, guys. Come up of the year. And like I said, this is the person or the fighter who's put themselves in the best position moving forward for 2025. My opinion, I don't know if everybody will agree, but it's very straightforward. Guys, I'm going Diego Lopez. Diego Lopez, since his first fight in the UFC, just showed he was a true superstar. And this year, he had an opportunity to showcase his skill set against some of the best in the division. So he beats Youssef, he beats Ige, and he beats Brian Ortega. 2 out of those 3 guys have been in title contention before, have been with the best of the division, have shown heart, have shown grit, and have showed high-level mixed martial arts. Because of that, I think Diego Lopez is an easy pick for come up of the year. He had the knockout win against Youssef. He almost knocked out Ortega. He had an absolute war with Dan Ige, and he didn't really need to fight Dan Ige. Dan Ige was very last minute after Brian Ortega pulled out the same day. So, I mean, that was a risk. He took the risk. He fought 3 times in 1 year. Diego Lopez will be a champion, in my opinion. We'll see that soon enough. So, come up of the year goes to Diego Lopez. Next up, I'm going to go with underdog of the year. And I don't know if you guys have given it much thought. And there was a few fighters I thought that had great underdog performances. They won their fight. And of course, guys, unfortunately, because these are the awards, usually it's going to go to higher level guys who are fighting on the main card. Not that I don't watch everybody, but it just makes the most sense. There's more on the line. It just works that way, right? So underdog of the year, it's an easy one for me, guys. It's Renato Moicano. If you said anybody other than Renato Moicano, I don't think you saw him the full year. He had 3 fights: Jalen Turner, Drew Dober, Benoit Saint-Denis. I believe, and I'm going off my memory here, I know for sure he was an underdog in 2 of those fights. He might have been an underdog in 3. That's insane. That's insane. And he came in, and that last fight against Benoit Saint-Denis, he needs to teach every Russian grappler what you do when you take control of the fight, because that ground and pound, that domination was absolutely insane. And to be honest with you, that fight against Jalen Turner, he got lucky. Jalen Turner didn't capitalize on the knockdown, but he comes back and he takes it. He is the definition of an underdog. He's older in the division. He's been around forever. He's still fighting, trying to hit the top. I'm excited to see him against Beneil Dariush. I think the easy pick here for underdog of the year, for the UFC in 2024 is Renato Moicano. Renato Money Moicano, that is. Comeback of the year. So this was not a comeback in a fight because Renato might have been in talks for comeback of the fight against Jalen Turner. This is comeback of the year. And for me, and maybe I've always been a fan, maybe I'm a little biased and convince me of some other fighter who deserves it more than this guy. I think Petr Yan takes it. And Petr Yan came in and he beat Song Yadong early in the year. And then he went on and beat Davison Figueiredo a few weeks back. And what I have to say about this is you got to think about this guy being a champion, constantly being a title contender, fighting guys like Aljamain Sterling, Corey Sandhagen, Merab Davishvili, Sean O'Malley. And he had 3 fights in a row. He lost to Aljo, he lost to Sean, and then he lost to Aljo, lost to Sean, then lost to Merab. I had a brain fart. My apologies. So when you're coming off of those 3 losses, especially when you're constantly competing for the title and against Merab getting dominated the way he did, most guys, that would be the decline. That would be the point of no return, the start of it. When they're all washed up, we just count them out. And for him to come in against Song Yadong, gets a good win. That wasn't the craziest thing ever. But to come in against Davison Figueiredo, who's constantly proving himself in the division now, to come in and dominate him and put in that world-class performance a few weeks back, I think it's comeback of the year because I think beating Davison Figueiredo puts Petr Yan right back where we had him about 2 years ago, about a year and a half ago. And I think that's great, and I think it's great for him. He's easily the comeback fighter. So we had the come-up fighter, Diego Lopez, underdog Renato Moicano, then the comeback fighter, Petr Yan. Now, for some of the things you guys might have wanted to talk about, the knockout of the year. The knockout of the year. And when I thought of this, there was a few knockouts that wowed me. I mean, we have Shara Bullet with a double spinning back fist. That was insane. But like I said, sometimes it comes down to the bigger moment, right? Like the spinning back fist, if it was for a title in the 4th round of a fight late in the year and this, that, the other, maybe I pick it. I think it's easily UFC 300, Max Holloway versus Justin Gaethje. 1 second left, and Justin Gaethje is flat on the floor when Max Holloway calls him to the middle of the canvas and says, "Let's bang this out for the BMF belt." What a like you couldn't script that any better. Like that almost felt like a movie finish, right? The BMF belt, Max Holloway coming in as an underdog, going up a weight class, coming in. They're brawling it out. He's kind of dominating the fight. If you go back, he kind of dominated that fight. I would say he did, right? Breaks Justin Gaethje's nose early in the fight. Then in the last 10 seconds, does why he's a BMF. The reason he's a BMF, why we call him that, comes to the middle of the canvas. He's like, yo, let's swing. And they both start swinging at each other with all their might. Max Holloway lands a nasty hook and puts out Justin Gaethje, a guy who doesn't get finished, by the way, flat out on the canvas. And to me, I think you can't write a better script. And for that, I give Max Holloway knockout of the year. And I don't think you could debate it just because the moment was so big. So big. You cannot beat it. So I think that's a shoe. And if you have another one, I mean, Shara Bullet, impressive. There was a few impressive ones, but I'm going to give him that one. I love the Matt Frevola one too, where he gets knocked out, unfortunately, with that knee up against the cage. But anyway. All right, sub of the year. This is a tough one, right? Because if you're like a big grapple heavy guy, jiu-jitsu guy, and you're looking at certain techniques or something you've never seen done, I'm sure it gets you going and you get a little half chub and things like that. I think it has to do with how it happens, how the submission develops, obviously the moment, who you submitted, this, that, the other. Maybe there's a recency bias. My runner-up, to be honest with you, is Islam Makhachev against Dustin Poirier. A lot of people like the Dricus one against Adesanya. There was a couple that came to mind, and a few that I saw that I was like, oh man, those were solid. But Islam versus Dustin Poirier, in my opinion, was world class. But the sub of the year for me has to be recent. It's Khamzat Chimaev versus Robert Whittaker. And a lot of people are going to say, what type of sub was that? For me, I love sleek, impressive jiu-jitsu. But there's something about Khamzat Chimaev stepping up in competition in a fairly new division, right? Because this is his second middleweight fight, and his last fight was against Kamaru Usman. So scratch that out. He's fighting literally the gatekeeper in the middleweight division, comes in, ragdolls him, and as soon as he gets his neck, or goes for his neck, doesn't get his neck, he literally breaks Robert Whittaker's jaw. Where as soon as he locks up Robert Whittaker, one of the best in the world, guys, one of the best ever in the middleweight division, is tapping out, saying mercy, saying uncle. It's over. To me, that's impressive because that just shows a crazy level of brute strength that this man has. And this just proves how scary he is to that whole division. Because there was question. He's fought in the welterweight division. There's been questions about his opponents. There's been questions about his health. There's been questions about his legitimacy after he fought Burns and Usman, and they kept up with him. And he moves up in weight class. He fights Usman at 185, but I don't count it. Now he fights a real middleweight, a massive man, a contender, and he does that. It's the sub of the year for me. It's a sub of the year for me, and I will argue that with anybody. Next up, fight of the year. So I'm going to UFC 306. If you haven't seen this fight, go back. It wasn't the main event. It was a fight that I said, hey, it should be solid. These guys are good. These guys are on the come up. These guys have everybody's attention. Daniel Zellhuber versus Esteban Ribovics has a little bit of everything. It is an old-fashioned UFC fight where two dudes are beating each other senseless, but it's at such an insane technical level. It's incredible. And they wobble each other. There's one point in the fight where you think one is winning, then the other's winning, then the other's winning. And it's just nonstop volume, nonstop striking, and high-level elite mixed martial arts. And that's the difference between UFC 306 and UFC 75. And that fight gives it to you. And I'm a big brawl guy. I like brawls. Yes, I'm okay with some grappling. I like high-level jiu-jitsu as well. I think it's fun. But when two guys are beating the living crap out of each other, I mean, that's as good as it gets for me. So fight of the year, if you haven't seen it, I've seen it about 3 times since then. Daniel Zellhuber, Esteban Ribovics, pretty straightforward. Performance of the year. This one's tough because, like I just mentioned, we're at a level of mixed martial arts and a time in mixed martial arts, an era of mixed martial arts where everyone is so good, right? So, again, we go back to what I've been saying. We look at somebody who had to step up to the moment, someone who fought a very hard opponent, someone who delivered, someone that showed an elite level skill set. And I think a few guys come to mind. A few guys had great performances, but there's one that, just did it for me. And Ilia Topuria versus Max Holloway is the performance I am going to call out. Ilia Topuria beat Alexander Volkanovski, which is a hard enough task, right? An almost impossible task, but Volk maybe too quick of a turnaround after the Islam knockout. He comes in and he knocks out Max Holloway, someone who has never been knocked down. Never been knocked down. And at 145 pounds, he outclasses him striking. He meets him in the middle in the beginning of the fight. Obviously, that was just kind of in his game. Max Holloway respected him very much. He didn't try to grapple. Max Holloway's not a great grappler. That should have been the game plan. He stood there. He was striking with him, and he put him out with insane footwork, fantastic boxing. Ilia Topuria has had quite the breakout year, and we'll speak about him a little more. But performance of the year for me is Ilia Topuria stepping in there against Max Holloway and doing what he did. Because so many people, so many high-level individuals have had the opportunity to do that on Max Holloway, and nobody has ever come close. Volkanovski fought him 3 times, and they went 15 rounds. No one has come close to doing that to Max Holloway. And Ilia Topuria did it in a couple of rounds. So I think that's the performance of 2024. Next up, Team of the Year. This is a very straightforward one, and if you ask me, the last 3 are very straightforward, but I'm going to give you my justification because a lot of people may feel like, oh, it's the casual answer. Guys, if you don't say the Team of the Year is the Fighting Nerds, I don't know what team you're referring to. There's good teams out there. There's solid ones. There's ones that have been good for years, but Fighting Nerds have come out of nowhere almost, it feels like. Ruffy, Prates, Baralo, Silva, those guys are insane. They're all at that same level where I'm just waiting for them to step in and through the rankings. I mean, those 4 guys for me are going to be in their division, just owning it for the next 3 years. For the next 3 years, those guys are going to be the top of the division. I'm not saying they're all going to be champs, but I'm saying they're all going to give high-level fights. They're going to be taking people out. And I think 2025 is going to be a huge year for all 4 of them. So what a team. Those guys are just killers. I like their whole gimmick. I like the little glasses thing. They're fun to watch. They're, they seem like cool dudes. I love that gym. I love that team. Great job. Simple. So I'm going to go next with card of the year, and I'll end with fighter of the year. Card of the year, easy. We had a few good cards. There's just nothing like UFC 300. Why yap about it? Why am I going to build up to my decision? No, it's UFC 300. It's straightforward. And if you don't remember, Davison Figueiredo and Cody Garbrandt started off that card. Then it was Bobby Green versus Jim Miller, Jessica Andrade versus Marina Rodriguez, Jalen Turner versus Renato Moicano. All of those fights were fun to watch, by the way, because that was that night I'll never forget. From 6 p.m. to like 1:30 in the morning, I did not move from my couch. Then, to start the prelims, that was the early prelims, you have Diego Lopez putting away Sadiq Youssef. You have Kayla Harrison making her UFC debut against Holly Holm. Dominant performance. Aljo dominating Calvin Kattar, which, if you ask me, the only fight that you could question, you could say, hey, it was kind of boring. And it was a masterclass of grappling from Sterling, so not even fair. Jiri Prochazka versus Ratchik, which he was losing that fight, and he ends up winning. That was the prelims. You have Jiri, previous champ. Sterling, previous champ. Holly Holm, previous champ. Davison Figueiredo, previous champ. All before the main card starts. Incredible. Then you have the main card, and you have Bo Nickal versus Cody Brundage. Solid fight. Bo Nickal gets a finish. Charles Oliveira versus Arman Tsarukyan. First 2 rounds, fantastic. It got a little boring after. And Charles Oliveira almost had Tsarukyan submitted. Max Holloway versus Justin Gaethje. What do I have to say about that? I mean, come on. Literally the moment of the year happened then. It literally electrified everybody. It was like a main event, and it happened 2 fights before the main event. Co-main event, Zhang Weili versus Yang Xianan. Zhang Weili won by decision, but she literally submitted Yan Xianan. It looked like she fell asleep, and she almost knocked her out. The fight was great. Very high-class female mixed martial arts. And then Alex Pereira and Jamal Hill, first round, the whole cup incident. Alex Pereira says, hey, ref, leave it alone. Let me get this. Boom, knockout. Like, what else do you want? Like, that is a master class. Like, I don't think we ever get a night like that in UFC. And never say never. I'm sure UFC 500 will be bananas. But what a card. What an experience, especially being a fan for so many years. There was nostalgia, there was a great feeling, there was a sense of happiness watching it. I loved all the fighters who were on it. The matchups were great. I mean, the card delivered. I mean, there's nothing better to say. The matchups there were genius. So well done, well marketed, everything. Now, to end this, fighter of the year. So I already gave him an award tonight. Ilia Topuria. I'm not giving him fighter of the year. I think he's a very close second. I think you could argue, bring Dricus into a conversation. You could bring Pantoja into a conversation. Alex Pereira sweeps all these guys at the end of the day. And I've seen people argue, is it because he had 3 fights and Ilia had 2? I'm not taking anything away from Ilia. Ilia Topuria has had a legendary year, a Hall of Fame year. You beat Alexander Volkanovski and you knock out Max Holloway. And you become champ, you defend the belt against 2 legends of that division and of the sport, really. Like, those are 2 top, that's like, both guys are top 50 fighters of all time. And you beat them in 1 year. And then you go to Alex, and Alex beat Jamal, Jiri, and Khalil Roundtree. What I will say about him, because I think since we see the legends that Ilia fought, you forget that Jiri and Jamal were champions. They're definitely not legends or UFC Hall of Famers like Volkanovski and Max Holloway are, but this is real deal competition. And Alex Pereira has fought all these guys, and he's knocked them out. He knocked out Jiri, he knocked out Jamal, and he knocked out Khalil. And he's been taking these fights on short notice. This guy has saved multiple cards this year. Literally. Something falls through, Alex Pereira, we have this huge fight now. And when he steps into the octagon, it's almost like, at least me, as someone who's been watching the sport and not waiting for Alex's demise, but I'm waiting for somebody to properly test him. I'm like, when is somebody going to start grappling? When is somebody going to start grappling? Nobody could do it. He outstrikes them. and he finishes them. He just breaks them down. Jamal Hill laid out. Jiri Prochazka, that crazy head kick in the second fight. And then Khalil Roundtree, who actually gave him a good fight, just slowly broke him down until he withered away, and then he finished him, and he reconstructed his face. 3 title defenses. What else do you want from this guy who took a division by storm last year, now steps up to the light heavyweight division, and has fought 5 times now? 5 times, yeah. He beat John, Jiri again, Jamal, and Khalil in less than 2 years. What else do you want from this guy? What else can he do? Alex Pereira has taken this sport by storm. He's taken the UFC by storm. He's taken superstardom, and he's made it his bitch. He's done it all. So I think Fighter of the Year goes Alex Pereira. A close runner-up is definitely Ilia Topuria. But I think I have to give it to Alex Pereira. There's no questions. And that concludes the awards. But we're not done. I did want to mention a few fighters who had great years. Obviously, here I mentioned 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 different awards. Not all of them were fighters. But there was a trend in the type of fighters that were there. And yeah, I'm going to make a post about this on IG. Guys, if you're new here, be sure to follow. But I'm going to continue. Some honorable mentions. I do want to mention these people had great years. A great year. Merab Dvalishvili, Dricus du Plessis, Valentina Shevchenko, Shara Bullet, Umar Nurmagomedov, Paddy Pimblett, Islam Makhachev, Tom Aspinall, Bilal Muhammad, Alexandra Pantoja, Shavkat Rakhmonov, Ian Gary, Lerone Murphy, Joaquin Buckley, and I want to shout out Anthony Hernandez, who had a great year as well, and Peyton Talbot, who's going to be a force to be reckoned with very soon. I'm missing several fighters there, guys. That's not everybody, but those are the guys I really have, and men and women, that I was really impressed with, really happy for, and I think they set themselves up really well for 2025. I'll probably break down some of those people with the video to come. Like I said, be sure to subscribe, guys. I hope you liked the video. And all the fighters are going to come up now and speak, but I know you don't want to see that, so I'm just going to end the video. Have a good one. I appreciate all of you. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year.